Welcome to our Stronghold Iron 8-step video installation series. Today we tackle step number 1, pre-installation preparation. Hey everyone, Jason from Iron Fence Shop. In step 1 of our Stronghold Iron video installation series, we're going to go over what you need to do and gather up in preparation for starting your fence and gate installation. Today's video is going to break down into 3 parts. Part 1, plan for what's underground. Part 2, gather the required tools. And Part 3, purchase installation supplies. Part 1 is planning for what is underground. I already touched on this in our intro video, but I wanted to go over it again here as it is very important and something you do not want to skip over. The last thing you want is the surprise of a ruptured water line or electrical shock from a power line as you dig your post holes. So before we go marking and digging holes all over the yard, we want to make sure we do our best to plan ahead. Unexpected natural things like rocks and tree roots can be a pain, but I'm focusing more on man-made underground items like gas, electric, water, and drainage lines. These split into 2 different categories. The first category is public utilities that we're going to have 811 come out and mark. This will include things like buried water, gas, and electrical lines. If you didn't already have 811 come mark your property during the planning or permitting process, now's the time to do it. It is important to know what's buried below before you begin digging post holes. Simply dial 811 and they'll come out and mark any buried public lines at no charge. They will typically come out within 24 to 48 hours and will mark any buried utilities with flags or spray paint. You can also visit them at call811.com for more info on how the process works or to schedule it online. The other category is private underground lines that you'll want to check for and mark. 811 only marks public utilities such as gas, water, and electric. They will not mark private underground lines such as gutters, drains, landscape wiring, or invisible dog fence wiring. Be sure to look for and plan for those underground items in your yard as well. You can mark them with spray paint, flags, or wood stakes. With our underground items addressed, part 2 is to gather the required tools. The following list of tools is what you'll typically need to install your Stronghold Iron fence and gates. I tried to include everything I could think of, but there may be some smaller items or substitutions for different tools you like using. Most of these are commonly owned tools or relatively inexpensive ones to buy or rent. For any larger or single-use tools you don't own, your local tool rental store would probably be able to help. Let's run through what you'll typically need to get everything installed. If you're utilizing our standard ground post that gets set in concrete, then you'll need a tub and or wheelbarrow to mix your post concrete in. You can also rent a powered mixer for the concrete if you don't want to mix it all manually. If you're using the standard ground post, then you'll also need some digging tools. A standard garden shovel and or a narrow shovel for digging is helpful to have around. You'll also want to have a manual post hole shovel like this. Even if you're running a powered post hole auger, you will want one of these to clean up and fine tune the post hole width and depth. Unless you have a smaller project with 10 or less post holes, most folks are going to rent a powered post hole auger. They aren't too expensive to rent and save a lot of sweaty physical work. They come in a variety of setups from the simple one-man auger to small motorized ones with tracks you can drive around on. Go with the one that fits your budget and comfort level best. Next up are some tool options to cut your fence panels with. It's rare not to have to trim at least a few fence panels in your layout. To do that, you can use a hacksaw, an angle grinder, a sawzall, really any tool with a blade ready to cut metal that you can fit on your parts is acceptable to use. I'll put a link in the description below for the video I did going over some of these cutting tool options in more detail. Some of the smaller hand tools needed include string line, measuring tape, bubble level, magnetic ones are really handy, rubber mallet, a hammer, drill or impact driver with drill bits, a center punch, a socket set, a caulk gun, masking tape, silver marker, chalk, grease pens, and a metal file or rotary tool. With our tools gathered up, we move on to part 3, heading to the store and purchasing your installation supplies. The following building materials will need to be purchased from your local hardware store to complete your installation. I'm going to split this into 2 separate lists based on if you're using our standard ground posts or the optional surface mount flange posts. If you're using our standard ground posts, you'll need the following installation supplies. High visibility spray paint. This will be a special can that is made to spray in an inverted position. You'll use it to mark where you will dig your post holes in the grass. It often comes in bright green, yellow, or orange colors. Steel rebar or wood stakes. You'll hammer these into the ground to secure your string line to. Bags of large size gravel. While this is optional, adding a couple inches of gravel to the bottom of your post hole will allow for drainage of moisture and give a solid base for your post to rest on. It is also beneficial to fine tune your post hole depth if you accidentally dig too deep. Bags of concrete. While you can use other types, standard concrete is all that's required. The number of concrete bags required will vary based on the size and length of post being buried. You can find concrete calculators online to help determine how many bags you'll need based on your post size, post count, along with the width and depth of each post hole. If you're using our surface mount flange posts, you'll need the following installation supplies. Drill with a hammer setting. In order to drill into concrete and masonry materials, You'll need to have one with a hammer drill setting. You cannot drill concrete masonry with a standard drill. This can also just be a rental rather than a purchase. Chalk and/or a marker. This will be used to mark the post placement and holes to drill on your surface. 3/8" stainless steel washers. You'll use these as shims under the flange post if your concrete isn't perfectly level. 3/8" masonry drill bit. This is a specialty type of drill bit for going into concrete. Anchor hardware in a 3/8" size. The length and type of anchor bolt for your flange post will depend on your slab or wall thickness. Each flange post will need 4 anchors. If you'd like some more info on the anchor bolts typically used with our flange posts, check the description below for a link to our video that goes over some of the commonly used anchor options like these tapcons and wedge anchors. Alright, in step 1 we've done our best to make sure we don't have any underground surprises and gathered all the required tools and supplies. We'll see you next in step 2, calculating your post spacing. You can click this link to access the 8-step install series playlist. You can also visit us here at ironfenceshop.com. If you have any other questions, you can shoot us an email at sales@ironfenceshop.com or give us a call at 800-261-2729. We look forward to hearing from you.